It was a stormy Sunday morning when the atmosphere in the massive hall of Redeemed Church Ministries felt electric with anticipation. The air was thick with the hum of whispers, as the congregants stared at the entrance, awaiting the arrival of their revered prophetess, Mama See It All. The woman was a legend, a figure whose words carried the weight of divine truth. Her reputation had spread across the nation, and today, the entire church was buzzing with excitement. No one in the congregation dared to utter a sound louder than a whisper, fearful of disturbing the holy silence as the storm outside raged on. Mama See It All, Prophetess Ngozi, was no ordinary woman. With flowing robes, a face serene yet fierce, she stood at the pulpit like a queen overseeing her domain. Her very presence seemed to exude an otherworldly aura that commanded respect. The murmurs grew louder when Bimbo, one of Ngozi's trusted aides, rushed toward the stage, wide-eyed and panting. She called out to the congregation in a voice strained with urgency, "There has been a miracle," Bimbo announced breathlessly, her eyes darting nervously to the front rows. "A crippled man, he has been healed." The room erupted in gasps, and the believers scrambled to catch a glimpse of the man who was said to have been healed by the power of Mama See It All. Whispers ran through the crowd like wildfire, and some people even began to weep, overcome with emotion. But amidst the chaos, there was one person who remained calm and skeptical, called Adejua. Adejua had been attending the church for several months. At first, she had been moved by the testimonies, the joy, the hope that radiated from those who claimed to have experienced miracles. But today, something felt off. As Bimbo led the healed man to the front, Adejua's eyes narrowed. She recognized him. She had seen him just days earlier, walking down the street near the market. Adejua knew that this man wasn't crippled. She had spoken to him just a week ago, and he had walked without assistance. Yet, here he was, supposedly healed in a public display meant to glorify Ngozi's power. Something was terribly wrong. Her mind raced as she tried to piece together the puzzle. Was this truly a miracle, or was it part of a larger scheme? She watched as the congregation fell to their knees, praising Ngozi and thanking God for the supposed miracle. In their eyes, Ngozi was a vessel of divine power, someone who could speak directly to God, someone who could heal and prophesy. But Adejua felt a growing unease. A suspicion that this was nothing more than a well-crafted performance. An illusion designed to manipulate the faithful. Her doubts grew with each passing moment, but she remained silent. For now, she would watch. She had to see more, understand more, before making any rash decisions. But deep down, she knew that what she had witnessed today was just the beginning of something much darker. Many years before her rise to prominence, Ngozi had been a simple girl named Ngozi Ademoye, born into a humble family in a small village. Her parents were devout Christians who taught her the importance of faith, prayer, and humility. As a child, she was adored by her teachers and peers for her gentle nature and her love for God. She was the kind of girl who would organize Sunday school classes, sing in the choir, and lead prayers. Her future seemed set, a life dedicated to service and devotion, but as Ngozi entered her teenage years, a sense of yearning began to grow within her. She watched from the sidelines as other young women achieved success, while she remained in the shadows. Ngozi's ambitions grew stronger with each passing year. She wanted more. She longed to be more than just a humble servant. She dreamed of influence, to recognition, and a deeper connection to God, but she didn't know how to achieve it. Her opportunity came during a church conference, a grand event held in the capital city. There, she met Pastor Mark, a charismatic figure known for his powerful sermons and divine revelations. Pastor Mark was everything Ngozi wanted to be: successful, influential, and revered. He spoke of a hidden power, a deep spiritual connection that could only be unlocked by those willing to make sacrifices. Ngozi was drawn to his words, fascinated by the idea of unlocking a divine power that could elevate her ministry to new heights. She followed Pastor Mark's teachings for months, absorbing his every word like a sponge. But eventually, her desire for power overtook her patience, and she made a fateful decision. She sought out Pastor Mark for guidance, asking him how she could achieve the spiritual power she craved. Pastor Mark's eyes sparkled as he looked at Ngozi. He had seen potential in her from the moment they met. He knew that her hunger for power would lead her down a path few would dare to follow. And so, he offered her the ritual, a secret, ancient ceremony that would unlock her hidden potential and grant her the divine abilities she so desperately desired. The ritual was held in the dead of night, away from the prying eyes of the church and its congregants. It took place in a secluded location deep in the woods, far from civilization. Ngozi was nervous, but her desire for success outweighed her fear. She had made her choice. As she entered the darkened clearing, she was surrounded by a group of pastors and occult practitioners, all chanting in an ancient language. The air was thick with incense, and the ground beneath her feet felt cold and foreign. Pastor Mark stood at the center, holding an ornate dagger in one hand and an ancient book in the other. "You must give up what you hold dear," he intoned, his voice echoing through the night. "Only by making a true sacrifice will you receive the power you seek." Ngozi hesitated for a moment. She had always dreamed of having a family, of being a mother. But she knew that this was the price of power. She must give up the one thing she had always wanted. She closed her eyes, whispered a prayer, and agreed to the sacrifice. The ceremony began. As the chanting grew louder, Ngozi felt an unfamiliar heat spread through her body. Her mind raced, her heart pounded in her chest, but she felt alive in a way she never had before. The darkness surrounded her, and for a moment, she wondered if she had made a grave mistake. When it was over, Ngozi felt different. She felt powerful. But something had changed. She had sacrificed her ability to have children, her humanity in exchange for something far darker. The power surged within her, and she felt an unnatural force coursing through her veins. She had made a deal with forces beyond her comprehension, and now she was bound to them. From that moment on, Ngozi's life was transformed. The ministry she had struggled to build began to grow exponentially. People came from far and wide to hear her preach, and miracles began to occur. But these miracles came at a cost. Ngozi was no longer fully human. She had crossed the line, and there was no turning back. Ngozi quickly became known as Mama See It All. Her name spread like wildfire, and her church grew to unprecedented heights. She preached with a fire and conviction that captivated everyone in her presence. People came from all corners of the world, believing that Mama See It All could heal the sick, cast out demons, and provide answers to the deepest questions of their hearts. But Ngozi's success was not entirely due to her charisma or preaching ability. There was something far darker at work. Underneath her polished exterior, she was no longer fully human. The powers she had gained from the ritual, powers that had bound her to an ancient, underwater covenant, enabled her to see into people's souls, to manipulate their desires, and to control them. Every miracle, every prophecy, every healing was part of her plan to build her empire. She controlled her followers through fear and awe, knowing that her divine abilities made her untouchable. She reveled in her newfound power, but she also knew that the price for it was steep. She had made a pact with the Marine Kingdom, a secret society of ancient beings who rode beneath the waves. And now, they were watching her every move. As Ngozi's ministry grew, so did the number of people seeking her guidance. But with each day, a part of her began to change. The power she had gained from the ritual was intoxicating. It felt like she was no longer just a woman, but an instrument of something much larger. She could heal the sick with a mere touch, predict the future with an uncanny accuracy, and cast out demons with the power of her words. But as her influence spread, so did the whispers. There were murmurs in the streets and the villages about her methods. Some claimed she had the power of the devil, others said she was a false prophet leading people astray. Ngozi knew these rumors would only fuel her enemies. But they also made her more determined to prove her supremacy. One evening, after a particularly powerful sermon, Ngozi found herself alone in her office, staring at the ornate mirror in front of her. The reflection staring back at her was not the same woman she had seen in her younger years. She was older, her face now bearing the subtle marks of the power she had acquired. Her eyes, once warm and full of compassion, now glimmered with a cold, calculating intensity. As she gazed deeper into the mirror, she heard a voice behind her. It was low, sultry, and undeniably familiar. "Power is such a beautiful thing, isn't it?" The voice whispered. She turned quickly, her heart skipping a beat. Standing in the doorway was Pastor Mark, the man who had introduced her to the ritual, the one who had set her on this path. His eyes gleamed with pride, but there was something darker there too, something almost predatory. I've watched you grow, Ngozi, he said, his voice smooth like velvet. You've surpassed my expectations. Ngozi swallowed, suddenly feeling small in his presence. Ngozi's power to manipulate grew as she introduced new practices to her congregation. She handed each member a special mirror, claiming it was blessed by the Almighty. She told them to speak to the mirror each morning, and they would see part of their spirit that needed healing. The truth, however, was far darker. Through these mirrors, Ngozi could peer into the souls of her followers. She used their weaknesses, fears, and secrets to control them. The mirrors were her portal to the marine kingdom, where she siphoned energy to maintain her influence. One Sunday, Mama See It All called a young woman named Jalot to the front of the church. With an unsettling calm, Ngozi revealed the details of a private argument Jalot had had with her husband the previous night. The congregation erupted in awe, believing it was a divine revelation. But in truth, Ngozi had used her mirror to summon Jalot's spirit and gain access to her secrets. The performance solidified Ngozi's hold over her followers, creating a sense of fear and awe that bound them to her. As Mama See It All's wealth and influence grew, so did her exploitation of her followers. She began selling holy water and miracle oil at exorbitant prices, claiming that they could cure any sickness, fix marriages, or bring financial blessings. Adejua, a quiet but determined attendee, saw the toll this was taking on the people around her. One Sunday, she witnessed a struggling mother give her last savings for a tiny bottle of miracle oil, which only deepened her suspicions about Ngozi's true intentions. During one service, Ngozi singled out a young man named Chike, who had just returned from abroad with his mother. She announced that she had received a divine revelation about him, that his life battery was running dangerously low. Ngozi's chilling prophecy warned that he wouldn't live to see his 30s unless he made a significant sacrifice. She suggested a powerful seed, a cow, to renew his life. His mother encouraged him to comply, and reluctantly, he agreed. But what Chike didn't know was that Ngozi had no intention of using the money for any sacrificial cow. Chike wrote a check for the large amount Ngozi demanded, believing it would save his life. But the truth was far darker. Ngozi took the money and added it to her growing wealth, continuing her luxurious lifestyle. She had used her prophetic powers to manipulate Chike into giving her more of his wealth, all under the guise of divine intervention. Adejua, who had been observing all of this from the sidelines, began to piece together the truth. Mama See It All was not a prophetess, she was a master manipulator, exploiting people's faith for personal gain. Adejua's suspicions deepened as she witnessed more strange occurrences in the church. She saw another staged miracle where a man in a wheelchair was healed after Ngozi touched him. Adejua recognized him from the market, and she knew he wasn't disabled at all. These revelations fueled her desire to expose Ngozi's fraud, but she also knew the danger of crossing someone with such power. The church's followers would defend Ngozi blindly, and exposing her could put Adejua in grave danger. Adejua's investigation into Ngozi's past revealed more disturbing details. Ngozi had been born into a humble family but had been lured into the dark world of occultism after meeting Pastor Mark. His promises of success had led her to sacrifice her humanity for power. But Ngozi's rise to fame was not just the result of hard work or divine favor, it was the result of her manipulation, dark rituals, and the power she drew from the marine kingdom. As Adejua uncovered more layers of Ngozi's deception, she knew she had to expose the truth. One fateful night, Adejua decided to follow Ngozi. She hid near the river behind Ngozi's mansion, clutching her phone tightly, hoping to catch evidence of the dark rituals. At midnight, Ngozi emerged from the mansion, her steps almost gliding across the ground. As Adejua watched in disbelief, Ngozi began chanting in an ancient language. And her form began to change. Her skin shimmered, scales emerged, and her legs melded together into a serpentine form. Ngozi disappeared into the water, leaving Adejua stunned and horrified by what she had witnessed. The next day, Adejua knew that the truth had to be exposed. Ngozi was not just a fraud, she was something far more sinister, something beyond human. Adejua returned to the church, heart heavy but determined. Ngozi, sensing Adejua's growing suspicions, decided to call her forward during a service. She placed a cold hand on Adejua's forehead, whispering that she was treading dangerous waters and warning her to be careful. Ngozi's smile was sharp, and her words laced with menace. Adejua, however, refused to back down. Adejua's resolve grew stronger as she continued to gather evidence against Ngozi. The dark practices she had uncovered, the manipulation, and the destruction of families, all of it had to be revealed. But Ngozi knew that Adejua was getting closer to the truth. She had seen the signs and began preparing for the fallout. Adejua's efforts were becoming more dangerous, but she knew that she couldn't back down now. The truth had to come out, no matter the cost. Adejua decided to take a bold step. She released all the recordings, photos, and testimonies to the media. The world was shocked by the revelations, Ngozi's staged miracles, the manipulated healings, and her connection to the Marine Kingdom. Former followers wept as they realized they had been deceived for years. Ngozi's empire began to crumble as the truth spread like wildfire. But Ngozi was not willing to go down without a fight. She made one final attempt to discredit Adejua and maintain control over her followers. As Ngozi's secrets were exposed, her followers began to abandon her. The church that had once been a symbol of hope now became a place of mourning and regret. People questioned everything they had believed in. The public fallout was intense, and Ngozi's wealth and influence began to slip away. But even in the face of defeat, Ngozi refused to acknowledge her wrongdoings. She continued to manipulate those who still believed in her, determined to rebuild her empire, no matter the cost. In the aftermath of the exposure, Ngozi's once thriving ministry lay in ruins. Adejua, however, found solace in knowing that she had helped free people from the chains of deception. Her mission was far from over, but the victory was bittersweet. She knew that there would always be more people like Ngozi, using faith to control and exploit others. But for now, Adejua had done what was necessary to protect the innocent. With Ngozi's ministry falling apart, Adejua became a beacon of truth. She worked tirelessly to help those who had been hurt by Ngozi's lies. Her efforts were recognized by many, and she soon found herself speaking at conferences and helping other victims of spiritual manipulation. It was a long and difficult road, but Adejua was determined to help people heal and rebuild their lives, free from the fear and deception that had once controlled them. Adejua reflects on her journey, the struggles she faced, and the lessons she learned. She speaks to the congregation, reminding them that true faith does not rely on miracles or sacrifices but on honesty, love, and sincerity. Ngozi's story serves as a warning that not all who claim to speak for God are trustworthy. Adejua's mission was clear: to shine a light on the truth and help others find their way to genuine spiritual growth. Thank you for watching, and if you like these stories, kindly like and subscribe for more interesting stories.